Introduce ourselves. Dean?
Dean Benjamin, Alderman.
Jennifer Gossick, City Clerk.
Scott Young, Fire Chief.
Shane Blazer, Mayor.
Jay Bemke, Alderman, sitting in for Steve Kolf.
Thad Kubaschak, Committee Member.
Okay, number 2, consider the request from 2411 8th Street Incorporated with agent Z Mini Mart Azarden Pathan agent for a Class A, B, and Class A liquor license for the premise located at 2411 8th Street South. I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 No opposed. Okay, number 3, consider a request from Out of the Box Coffee House LLC, agent Out of the Box Coffee House, Teresa Cashman, agent for a Class B beer and a Class B liquor license for the premise located at 3820 8th Street South. I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that. One real quick question I got for Jennifer Gossick, the City Clerk. How many more combo licenses do we have available after this one if it's approved?
I believe we have 3 available after this one. It's either 2 or 3, but I believe it's 3.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Number 4, consider request from Eco ATM LLC, agent Eco Hunter Bergman, agent located at 3431 8th Street South for renewal of a secondhand article dealer license. I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, number 5, consider request from eWays Sales LLC, agent eWays Sales, Jonathan Reuter, agent located at 2660 8th Street South, number 105, for renewal of a pawnbroker, secondhand article dealer, and secondhand jewelry dealer license. I make a motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, consider request from Game Shop Incorporated, agent Game Shop Incorporated, or Game Shop, number 3254, James Bell, agent, located at 930 Coon Avenue for the renewal of a secondhand article dealer license. I move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. No nays. Okay, number 7, it's new on our agenda. It says review and consider for approval options for the fire station number 1 and number 2 renovation. And Scott, could you explain that?
All right, I believe it was the public safety budget meeting that this came up, and there really hasn't been a resolution on it yet, so I think it got carried over to the December Finance and Property meeting. So I'd like to start out by, acknowledging the support we've received from past councils and past mayors and this current council and Mayor Blazer. Been very supportive of the apparatus and equipment we received over the years. The training that we've always requested and personnel additions. The support we've received doesn't go unnoticed, and it's truly appreciated. So I just want to start off with that. And getting back, I think we've discussed this many times, but a little history on where we're at today. So during the 2018 talks for the 2019 budget in October, we were going through some items, and it was brought up, gender equity in the stations and the issues we have currently. And that through that, there was a need there that we needed to look at. And that's how we got to taking out bids and looking at companies that specialize in architectural design and station studies and analysis, facility studies of fire stations. Some of the concerns that were noted back in 2018 were gear lockers in the apparatus room, lack of appropriate decontamination abilities, carpeting throughout the lockers, and our gender equity issues that we have. Lack of administrative space, no training room at Station 1. Our EMS supplies and metering equipment are housed in an old apparatus bay that used to hold an ambulance. It's not climate controlled in there. We have apparatus storage limitations, and through that we were given direction to develop a list of what would be in scope and out of scope. And this was all done in 2019. So, through that we've found a couple firms that specialized in architectural design and facility studies. And we had 2 bids, and we went with 5 Bugles Design in July of 2019 for $15,000. In October of 2019, they began reviewing the station blueprints. They were in the stations doing pictures, measurements, looking at designs. In November, they met with a large group of fire department employees. I believe Mayor Verwink was there, Finance Director DeSorcy, and kind of went over a conceptual ideas, what we were looking for for fire stations. With all that compiled and all that data, we really didn't hear from them again until March of 2019 when they sent out I guess it was a draft final report and recommendations and probable cost projections. And the final draft or final report that they had with the appendices was in August of 2020. So it's been almost a 2-year process this has gone over. So with that, and as we go through kind of what 5 Bugles has had out there in the past and what we've discussed in the past, if there's any questions during this, feel free to ask, but we'll start with Station 2 because it's the easiest solution and the easiest fix. And I believe the first blueprint you have is at Station 2. Station 2 was built in 1969. It's very limited in what we can do with it as far as expanding and remodeling because it's made out of brick and mortar and concrete. Space in the station, as said before, is really not an issue for the staffing we have there. There is enough space, it's just not laid out real well. It's an old station, it's really not energy efficient, but it works for our needs right now. What we're looking for in Station 2, as you would see the blueprint, is what you're looking at is the green areas. Those are the modifications or renovations, what we're looking for at Station 2, and that's what we're asking for. What you're looking at there is the second story of Station 2. There's a basement, first floor, second floor. Our dorm rooms are housed on the second floor. What we currently have at that station is like a locker room style restroom where there's one door, you go in, there's 2 urinals, there's 2 bathroom stalls, there's one single shower capability up there with like 4 heads. It's totally inappropriate for female, male usage at the same time. It just doesn't work. So to solve Station 2, it's a simple fix. It's taken that dorm-style locker room, bathroom, dividing it up and making 2 gender-neutral bathrooms with shower capabilities. At night, that's where everybody sleeps. That's where we house them when you get up in the middle of the night and somebody has to use the restroom. It's very convenient to have the 2 showers when you're doing shift change, to have multiple showers and restrooms upstairs makes the most sense. The cost for that renovation is $133,840. And these costs are through 5 Bugles. This doesn't address any of the American with Disability Act concerns, but we are grandfathered. This is just a remodeling, not a renovation. We would not have to come in compliance with our ADA concerns at Station 2. So that's a pretty easy fix. Looking at that, if we were to do this, it's a minor renovation. I believe we could get 10 to 15 more years out of that fire station. So that's what we're asking for Station 2. Station number one, in my opinion, there's really only 2 or 3 realistic options that are financially responsible. Over the course of this time, I've heard we don't want to throw money at a short-term solution or a Band-Aid fix or a renovation that does not address our long-term needs. And I hear those concerns, and I certainly understand and support that viewpoint. So as we go over the 2 options that we have, we can discuss the pros and the cons. Option B is the next blueprint you have, and on here they have option 2. It's kind of changed from option 2 to B over the times, but right now you're looking at option 2 on my sheet. I have option B. That's what it's been referred to in the past. Option B comes with a 950 square foot addition. You can see where the walls run off. It contains the decon and some dorms and everything back. They take existing space and use that for gear laundry, residential laundry. Some dorm rooms would go in the existing space, and a shower would be moved. There's 1,530 square feet of renovation included in that project. What it does is it addresses some gender equity concerns, as we have 3 gender neutral restrooms. It does add a fire decon area and improves the current laundry area, and it gets the gear off the apparatus floor. What it doesn't, some of the cons that I have listed in here, these are very small dorms. They're partitioned. They're not individual dorms. They don't go up to the wall. It doesn't address the training at Station 1. We have no training room at Station number 1. Administrative offices, right now we have the deputy chief and division chief at Station 2. It doesn't address those needs in bringing them over to the central station. ADA concerns are not addressed on most of the station on the first floor. We gain no apparatus space. If people that have been through there probably have noticed our storage, we gain no storage space. The station is still carpeted. EMS storage and metering equipment are left in the old vehicle bay. And it's a lifespan that, talking with 5 Bugles in them, it's a 5 to 10 year lifespan. And when we're talking about Band-Aids and not meeting our long-term needs, I believe we're talking about option B. It comes at a cost of just under $1.3 million, $1,279,620. And that's kind of what you're looking at there. So next is option D, and that's the last sheet that I gave you. It's 1,485 square feet addition, 2,700 feet of the station would be renovated. With option D, all of our gender equity issues are fully met. This first floor becomes ADA compliant. It addresses our training room, as there would be space in there for training room. It brings in a decon and laundry. Issues are addressed, and those are safety concerns. Administrative offices, we gained 2 administrative offices. We could bring the DC and division chief over. It moves our EMS supply and metering out of that old storage bay into a climate-controlled atmosphere. It separates department administration with residential living from the general public. All of our carpeting would be replaced. It helps with apparatus space limitations. And what we're talking about there is behind the watch office and the administrative office on the bottom left, that first white bay is an old ambulance bay that no longer houses. It's not big enough for our current ambulances. That's what we keep our EMS supplies and our meters in there, and that's where we calibrate them. That would be able to be used now for one of our utility vehicles that we use on emergency responses. Actually, we call it Utility 3. We would place that out of the apparatus bay and move it there, hence gaining another spot for one of our ambulances. So with that, 800 square feet is, in here is another option that we have talked to with, some of the members in that. And what we are looking at is on here is an option for, I am missing the sheet here. I don't have the costs, okay. With this option D here, what we're looking at is, and what we've been told by Five Bugles, is this is would give us a 25 to 30-year lifespan out of the station. In what I see, option D is meeting our needs. What it doesn't do is it uses our existing shell or structure, so it's not going to be as efficient as a new station if we were to build it. It doesn't fully address the lack of apparatus space that we currently had. And with this option, our gear lockers remain in the apparatus bay. And option D comes at a cost of $1,759,897. When we're talking about long-term solutions that address all of the department's issues, I would argue that option D is gaining a new fire station at a quarter of the cost. If we go down to the bottom page here, in Five Bugles, they did many space needs analysis. If you looked at that final report, they had in there several options. They had in there an option for a new Station 1 or a combined Station 1 and 2, which I think is not even feasible at this point due to rural tracks and response needs. But what they have in there to replace Station 1, and I want to point out that a new fire station initially was never in scope to begin with. But they have 24,000 square feet is what they calculated for us to replace that station. Five Bugles uses $345 per square foot for a new station. A new fire station would be $7 to $8 million. It's cost prohibitive. It was never in scope. It was never meant to be in scope, hence being the reason why that was really never an option from Five Bugles. They were never told to look at a new fire station. And I think $7 to $8 million speaks for itself. And then getting back to option D, $1.8 million, I would argue that we basically are, with the addition and renovations, we're getting a new fire station for a quarter of the cost. And then finally, the last item I want to throw out there for this committee to consider is in this option D and option B, all of the options have a future apparatus bay. And when we're looking at bonding and we're looking at doing the renovations and the additions, it comes up, and I have no recommendation one way or the other. But would it be financially smart to consider that apparatus bay while we're doing this? The apparatus bay that you see, the orange part on option D, comes at a cost of $443,000. With that, we would be able to move our gear out of the apparatus room and be able to house almost all of our equipment at Fire Station 1. But that's an option I'll leave with you. So with that, here's kind of what we're looking at for bonding options for the cost. So, Station 1, option B, and with Station 2 thrown in, 1.4 million, a little over that. And when we're talking about short-term needs and Band-Aids, I believe that's option B. The option D, without the apparatus expansion, is $1,897,737,000. And then if you add the apparatus expansion on there, $2,341,577,000. So, when we look at our options, that's kind of what I see. So, kind of in summary, the fire station shortcomings as related to space needs and station design have been noticeable for several years. At 50-plus years, we realize that Station 2 is nearing the end of its life expectancy unless we invest a lot of money into major improvements, which is, in my opinion, not fiscally responsible or even desirable. Station number 1 seems to have been designed for 1980s with little thought given to future growth or what would allow for needed adjustments that would address the issues we face today. However, Station number 1 was constructed in a way that allows us to address the gender equity, ADA, and space constraint issues that have surfaced over the last few years. With a modest addition and renovations, we can bring the station up to current standards and have a modern professional station that allows us to function efficiently in day-to-day operation, that allows us to continue to deliver the service the community expects from a professional fire department. Over the last few months, several of you have toured the stations. We've had many changes since then, mostly COVID-related. Space needs are more profound than ever. Due to COVID and the needed spacing requirements, we have added 2 lorry beds at Station 1. We have makeshift beds placed at Station 2 with walls made out of PVC piping and curtains for privacy. Without getting into too many details, we've had nearly 40% of our staff test positive for COVID. At times, we've had nearly 2/3 of the department asked to quarantine by the Wood County Health Department. Obviously, this isn't possible, as we need the ability to maintain minimum staffing to respond to calls. We haven't been able to identify how the fire department has been disproportionately hit from other departments. With every outbreak, I've been in contact with the Wood County Health Department, and we cannot pinpoint a source of our exposures, whether it's our members being exposed outside of work, from patient contacts on EMS calls, or if it's being spread through the stations. What COVID has done is magnify how inadequate the station living arrangements are and how limited we are at providing our members with the safest environment possible. As stated at the last Finance and Property meeting, this is an issue that we are aware of. It is not going to go away on its own nor correct itself. It can only be resolved with monetary commitment and funding the needed improvements, whatever they may be. I think we have a great resource in Finance Director DeSorcy, and I certainly understand how difficult this decision is with the fiscal restraints the city is facing, with the limits on bonding that we're approaching or maybe have already met, and there are obviously other requests with financial ramifications from other departments within the city. But I am confident that we can find a solution that addresses the needs for the fire department and its members. So with that, I don't know where to go from here.
Tim, do you have any comments with regard to bonding? The source? I don't know. I think he's on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, if you remember, probably about a month ago, I sent you a debt projection that included approximately $1.5 million borrowing for this type of project as a, kind of an estimate of future borrowings. And as you can see is from that, and that included like $500,000 of reserves towards the project. And if from that analysis, you can see that with this borrowing for this project and also with the public works construction projects that we have at 2021, we'd be at about 50% of our bonding capacity, of which, according to our own policy, we have agreed, according to that policy, not to go greater than 65%. So from a borrowing aspect, that we have borrowing capacity to do this type of project. I always said it really boils down to, you have the capacity to borrow, but obviously when you borrow money, you have to pay back the principal, not only the principal, but also the interest. So it becomes a tax rate type discussion. And I also projected out with the borrowings that we have done in the past, which includes all the public works construction projects, the riverbank projects, and the aquatic center, along with projected debt. Going forward, in that analysis, I gave you what the projected tax rate impact would be.
At this time, Tim, interest rates are lower, right? I mean, what would be the interest rates on borrowing? An idea.
Yeah, right now, interest rates we've been very fortunate over the past number of years that it's been a very low interest rate environment from a borrowing capacity, and that trend continues. Obviously, on the converse of that, obviously, from an investment side, on the income side, we've suffered. So sometimes, when the cost of borrowing goes down, our investment earnings go down, they kind of offset. But for right now, rates remain historically low, and I anticipate, and everything from what I've seen is that, you know, rates aren't anticipated to go up for 1 to 2 years. So, you know, it's a very favorable borrowing environment from an interest rate perspective.
I guess I have a question of you, Scott. We're at con for D, using existing structure shell. There's not help energy efficient. The one time when they spoke to the Common Council, I'm kind of into energy saving like solar or geothermal, because a facility like this is used 24/7, you know, winter, summer, all the time. And I mentioned at the time that even if it's cost prohibitive to put in solar or maybe geothermal, that when they build it, can they build it so that if it's decided later on, solar could be put in or geothermal or what? I'm not into the details about geothermal and stuff like that, but it just seems to me in the long run, how we're going to use this facility, it's used 24/7 and energy all the time. It'd be interesting to entertain that idea in their proposal. That's where I'm coming from.
And I think Five Bugles discussed that when we brought that up last time. I think if they were the one to do the architectural design, I believe they could incorporate that into it. I'm not familiar with it either, but I don't know that was an option, and I do believe it adds some cost up front to it, and I don't know how long it would take to, you know, recover that money in it. But I do believe that's an option that when you get deeper into this and you're looking at the architectural design, because what you're looking at right now is a concept. It's like nothing. This will change dramatically when you get to the final blueprints that you're going to send out for bids. But that would be the time you would incorporate that in there and just, you know, see what the cost would be and how much it would add to the project.
Because I know at the library, those solar panels, the payback is 6 years. So they only have 2 more years and it's a payback and they could buy it off. So
Right.
something to think about if this is going to be for a 20 to 30 year facility.
And that's what we were told with option D is, I believe Laura said 30 to 40, but we went conservative when I did this, 20 to 30, so it's
Yeah.
nothing. But again, this is a concept. We're in the infancy stages, so that could be incorporated later.
Any other question?
Scott, somebody on the chat, Derek Matakowski asked if he could speak on the chat.
Derek?
Am I recognized here?
Yes.
Derek Matakowski. I'm the president of the local 425, the Firefighters Union. We were included in this conversation initially with Five Bugles when they came, and I was more involved than any of the other members. And, you know, just speaking from what our lifestyle is there at the station, I can only speak in favor of going with option D with apparatus space or further. We're currently, we're seeing an increase of female firefighters. For privacy's sake, we're separated by shower curtains right now. I think we need to really look at the gender equality. And the fire service is changing, you know, every day, and we're seeing more and more females come in, and we need to not only accommodate them, but accommodate, you know, all the firefighters there. Looking at option B, that's like the chief said, that's like a Band-Aid that I don't think is even worth exploring. We've outgrown our space. We've got, it's an embarrassment almost when you see the fold down beds we have to put in our entryway and our other offices. So I implore you to at least, you know, start at option D, and if you want to build from there, you know, that's great. But I think option D with the apparatus addition that you see on the bottom of that page of the blueprint is probably, you know, the minimum we need to go after. Right now, if we have certain emergencies, we're required to go out to that storage unit behind the station, and you know, we're a professional department. as Five Bugle stated in their thing, it's a state of readiness, and in order to accomplish that, we need that additional apparatus space also. So, I guess coming from the union standpoint, I'm in favor of option D. Obviously, everyone would love to see a brand new station, but like I said, at the minimum, that option D is where I'm in favor of. So, I hope that helps with some of your discussions.
Any, Mayor?
Yeah, so I have supported this project from day one on council with Lee Graff, specifically because of the gender equality. I'll use the term that I've used throughout this process. It's a step up from deer camp, and Derek is absolutely correct. I couldn't imagine my son or daughter having, it's troubling, I think, how the appearance is, and those of you that have been there have seen it. But I'm going to pull on something that Tim has said in the past. We keep looking at these projects individually. We had an aquatic center. Oh, great, let's borrow money. We had a riverfront. We millions of dollars there. We spent $500,000 because we had to have a balcony. And these go on, and this project is extremely important. And these are the projects that should have been in the forefront of some of those things. We have $500,000 probably worth of work on a river wall. Should have been done first. But I can guarantee that any support of these projects, and Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because of the borrowing we're going to have to reborrow next year on short-term financing, borrowing for this, we are going to see multiple percentage increases in taxes right off the bat, just to cover the borrowing. So we have to know that going into this for 2021, we're already going to see tax increases to cover the borrowing. With that being said, that this project is very important, and from the gender equality, from the safety, from everything that those firefighters do over there, I support option D without the apparatus because it's $500,000, and option A over at Station 2. But we are definitely going to see a tax increase, and we know that going into this right now. And that's something the council is going to have to accept. But we keep looking at these projects as individual projects and not in the scope of things. We have a street department that the guys are using daily that are built in 1940. They're still using it daily. And that's addressed. They have equipment and everything stored outside that needs to be addressed. And it's a priority. But we are, I feel, spending ourselves into a hole. And I think it's irresponsible. Thank you.
Mr. Bemke?
I have a couple questions for Chief. Initially in this packet from Five Bugles, the estimate for a new building was $11.1 million. $11.1 million for the initial estimate, and now it's down to $7 or $8 million. Can you explain that?
The 11 million was a combined station 1 and 2.
One station.
One station, a single station. What they have for a central station, which is station number 1, is what they're calling the central station that would house your administrative and your apparatus needs. They have just under 24,000 square feet, and they use right around $350 per square foot for a new station, which puts it in $7 to $8 million with administrative fees and legal costs and architectural designs.
Okay, the other thing is as we're going through this list, the pros and the cons, as you get to the cons in your option D, there's still a handful of things that haven't been addressed. I guess with those things not being addressed, how confident are you that this is going to last 30 years? And can you predict that this is going to last? The equipment changes, it seems to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Are you confident you could get 25 to 30 years out of this?
The confidence I have, I guess, is the trust I have in Five Bugles, especially Laura, I don't know her last name, just discussing with her and her projections that this would be a 30 to 40 year fix. Basically, what I see it is a new station for a quarter of the cost. And what it doesn't address is what Union President Matakowski talked, is the apparatus space. So and that can probably become and maybe addressed later if need be, but, if you're going to do it in your bonding, I think it needs to be out there. Maybe this is the time we put it on. But when we talk about COVID and being real and how we've been impacted as a department, I'm going through the monthly report for November, and we've responded to 58 COVID calls in November. In December, for example, it was in the 20s, and you could go, it's going down and down and down. And what we had to do because of these calls is we have an ambulance designated as a COVID response unit. It is draped with sheets, plastic sheets you'd use for painting, so we don't have to decon every cabinet in there and every shelf. That ambulance right now, due to our apparatus limitation, sits behind one of the engines. So every time we have a COVID enhanced call where that needs to go to transport the patient, we have to pull out the engine to drive out that ambulance that designates a COVID. Then when it comes back in the middle of the night, we got to pull out the engine, back it back in, tight against the shelf. So what we've done for the time being is we move that ambulance to the pole shed. And when we get a COVID call, the members run out to the pole shed to grab that ambulance. And that's reasonable right now, but I don't know that it's going away. And if we continue running 50, 60 COVID calls a year and you run into ice in winter, it's going to be what it is. So I guess to your question, how confident I am as confident as how much I trust 5 Bugles, and I really trust their opinion and what they've done for us. I believe option D, is what we were looking at. I have to believe it sets us up for the next 30 years. And what more can you, to me, ask for the price, quarter of the price of a new station? The only thing it really didn't address is the apparatus space, what I just talked about. That's something I thought I'd throw on there for consideration right now. Do we do it now? Is that something we look at later and pick it up? But I wanted to put it out there with that apparatus space. Basically, you have a new, to me, fire station. But it's just a matter of what comfort level you have and how much, you can bond responsibly. And, so I hope that answers the question.
Mr. Chairperson.
Yes.
Chief Young, I guess one of the things, and I spoke, I don't remember if it was the last committee meeting or if it was the last council meeting, I spoke in favor of we need to do something. We've been talking about this for a while, but the one thing that kind of caught me off guard a little bit when you were talking was that 9 Bugles was not directed to actually look at a new building. And if that is accurate, which I'm not questioning whether you're accurate in terms of what the statement is, but if that is the case, I'm not confident in the number that they gave us, the $350 per square foot or whatever, if they weren't looking at it. And that was one of the things, Mr. Kellogg, when you brought up about like energy efficiency, and that's one thing that I always get excited about, is getting to the point where you're zero, I can't think of the word, but you're almost putting electricity back on the grid rather than using the electricity. And sometimes it isn't just about energy efficiency in terms of having insulation in the walls, but it's different practices, different usages. And if they were not directed by whoever it would be, whether it was the previous administration or whatever, to actually look at a new fire station, then they probably just took a generic number being like $350 a square foot. And that's typical numbers for any type of construction. So if you wanted to build a new school or build a fire station or whatever, that's pretty much what you're going to pay. Even for an office space or, coming from the construction industry, that's a ballpark number. But that is a generic number because it doesn't take all those little tiny idiosyncrasies when you're looking at developing an energy efficient or a net zero energy building. And so that's where I kind of, it scares me a little bit in terms of, are we, it almost kind of got the cart in front of the horse. Is that something where we can ask 9 Bugles within the next month, hey, give us a number if we got to do some type of a change order where they, it might cost them another whatever it is, a couple $100 or $1,000 or whatever, to give us those figures because they're not going to do it for free. But if that's the case where we need more information to actually make a decision, because this is something that we're going to be bonding for, this is something a significant cost, but yet could be there for the next 25 to 30 years, suggestively, maybe we do need those numbers of what a new station would be. And especially on the elected side, if we pull the trigger on this and then residents say, well, did you guys make the right financial decision? I mean, I don't honestly know if I can say 100% yes, because if we're not given the actual cost of what a new building was, because they were never directed to give us a study or a feasibility study in terms of looking at a new building, what would that number be? Would it be 12 million? Is it 8 million, 7 to 8 million like this? I don't know. So therefore, I wouldn't be confident as a council member saying, we made the right decision. We made the right decision based on the information that we're given, but is there more information out there? So that's, and realistically with bidding, I mean, we want to, break ground on something. We need to do something by springtime. But realistically, even if we kind of punt for another month to get some more information, all we need to do is publicly bid it, get it on Quest, and I mean, we could be, potentially shovel ready in 2 months. So I mean, by March, April, by the time we would want to break ground on an existing remodel or, potentially something else, I think we still have plenty of time to be able to do that. But again, if that's the case where we're looking at a significant expenditure like this, having all the information, especially if 9 Bugles or 5 Bugles or whatever the consulting firm is, and if they were especially if they were the sole consulting firm that we even talked with about this, and they weren't directed to give us a number on a new building, I think I would like to see that.
Mayor?
Thank you. Tim, I asked you earlier today, but what does this look like for when we go out for bond? When do we need a final number? So when we hit the bond market, also, because we also have to worry about our construction projects starting up in the spring, when do we need to have this done by?
Well, it all depends on when we can bond at any point in the year. Obviously, come, April, we're going to be beginning our construction, our public works construction projects, although that can be dealt with a reimbursement resolution. But obviously, you kind of want to have, depending on, we've borrowed and gotten proceeds in July, June, as early as March. So, I mean, as far as the timing, it's not a critical issue because, like I said, we can do a reimbursement resolution. And basically what that is that you do a resolution saying we're going to expend funds ahead of receiving the bond proceeds. And this is an IRS regulation where we do a resolution saying we're spending this money ahead of receiving the proceeds and we're going to reimburse ourselves from the proceeds. We just need to declare that up front. And per a resolution that we adopted a number of years ago, that gives me the capacity to do that resolution on behalf of the city. So the timing isn't as critical as far as that. I mean, the interest rate environment, obviously rates are low right now. Do I expect rates to significantly increase over the next 4 to 5 months? I doubt it, but then you never know. It all depends. All of a sudden, something with, what's really driving a lot of it is, the COVID, let's be honest. And all of a sudden, a promising vaccine, and all of a sudden, things kind of take off. The economy is going to be expected to improve. That'll drive interest rates up. I'm not an expert. I'm not an economist. Not my expertise, but I would say that, over the next, foreseeable future, that being, the rest of early next year and stuff like that, I don't see rates significantly moving, but, they can. You never know.
Any other questions or comments?
Just on the new station, so that's the direction I'm getting. I'm more than willing to reach out to 5 Bugles, but just to be clear on where I came up with the number from, 7 to 8 million from a new station, is if you do the Five Bugles final station facility analysis and study, they do have in there the space needs and the square footage for a new fire station number one. And the numbers we have right here off of option B, option D, are based on the addition at $350 per square foot, because that's what they use for new additions, and 200, and I believe 75 for the renovation per square foot. So I'm pretty confident using that number times the recommendation they gave what a new fire station number one would be, or a central station. And also that number is what they use for the combination of station 1 and 2, where they came up with that number was based off of, I believe, $300 and some a square foot. So if that's the direction given, I'll be more than willing to reach out to them and get a price. But they did the analysis of what a new station would be in their facility study. They just didn't do the conceptual design of a new station, because initially in 2018, that was out of scope. And what I would really wish to hope is that we come up soon with some resolution, because I think when they were here in September, if they were to start moving on with the architectural design, we were looking at groundbreaking in January, February of 2022. And now it's 2-3 months past September. And the longer we push this off is the longer they can begin, because there's going to be no groundbreak until there's an architectural design, and that's going to take months to meeting with our members and to meeting our needs into what we're looking at, because these conceptual designs are going to change. They're going to be dramatically different. So the longer we push this off, the longer the process takes to get started. And I think we could be looking at mid to late 2022 before we have a ribbon cutting if we push it off too far without, a decision on which direction we want to go. So that's all I have.
I agree. It's going to affect the taxes, as what you said, Mayor. It seems to me, I'd like to know the difference for a taxpayer to have D as we identified and D and the apparatus. And what I'm saying is, if it's in, any increase is not going to be insignificant. But if you add that one, add the apparatus, what would be the additional cost? And then that would give you the space in the future for any additional vehicles or other items. So I'm just curious as to what would be the increase for the typical taxpayer from Station D plan and Plan D with the apparatus, the differential there. I don't know, Tim, if you maybe can't identify that now or what have you. That's just curiosity. I mean, we might be cutting, we might say, well, that's a lot. It is a lot of money, for $400,000, but over the long term of the years that we have it and the additional needs that you may have in the future, you wonder if it's worth going with the apparatus. That's the only thing I have a concern with. Tim? I don't know.
Yep, if you just give me a second here.
Okay.
I think. All right. Oh, I see why. Okay.
Is Tim using an abacus right now? We can't see him.
I okay. It'd be $400,000. Now that's just principal. Obviously, $400,000, you're gonna have some interest. So I'm just looking at a principal. It'd be 39 cents per thousand of assessed value.
All right, thank you. Well, Tim, what's the cost? What would be the increase of just Plan D?
Plan B?
D like in dog.
Oh, what was, like I said, I just calculated the apparatus, the extra 400,000.
Well, it's 1,800,000, let's say 1,900,000.
And that's Plan B?
D like in dog.
Okay. Okay. Okay, now if you went with Plan B, now this is for the whole project. The previous one was just for the apparatus.
Yes,
Plan B would be $1.81 per thousand of assessed value.
and with the apparatus, then it would be $2 and,
Right.
yeah. So it'd be $2.20, about. I hear a motion or anybody?
Before we have a handful of people zoomed in. I'm just wondering if anybody else would, if
Okay.
you want to recognize anybody else. I don't know if they want to speak or not.
Anyone else that would like to speak that zoomed in? Anybody? Dean?
There's nothing on chat.
Okay.
Hi there, Justin Lewis.
Okay. Want to? You're well,
I see that.
I identify you, that's fine.
Okay. Option D that you have there, I feel like at a minimum is with the additional apparatus space, at a minimum is what the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department needs to be able to properly function. And I know there's discussions about new build and new fire stations. Is that fiscally responsible? Is that the right thing to do? Unfortunately, that's your job as the council members to make. But I do feel like additional information on what a new fire station would all entail and what kind of what that would get us still isn't determined because that wasn't in the original scope of practice by the former here. So if that, that dollar amount per square foot is enough to make a decision, I'm not sure. But, we'll say that option D, as in dog, with the additional apparatus space, is at a minimum of what we need to function because our department is only seen an increase in calls, and the time I've been here, the call volume has doubled. We went from 3 ambulances to 4 ambulances, and I don't see it being very long in our future that we're going to have 5 ambulances to cover the amount of ambulance calls we see. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Is there a motion or?
I guess I think I can be recognized.
Who's it? Yes,
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we've been kind of batting this around for, quite a while. And, just looking at it from, obviously, I do not, I'm looking at it from a outside perspective from the fire department. But, I would concur that option D, whether the apparatus, I don't know, but I'll rely on the experts that work at the fire station as far as, Chief Young and the other members of the fire department that have spoke tonight. But, obviously, option D seems to be, a reasonably financial responsible way to go to kind of solve some of the issues that are down at our outdated buildings. I'd like to also the members of the council to keep in perspective that this is one need of the city. We have issues down at the city garage as far as as far as outdated facility and things like that. And so when we look at kind of building looking at options of renovating, building new facilities, we always have to keep in mind that there's other needs in the city that we have to consider, and that, yeah, sure, we have the bonding capacity to do X, but what about Y and Z? If you recall, years back, we did a renovation at the city hall where we had to replace, some of the exterior siding, the windows, the HVAC, and such. And you could have made the argument then. It's like, did it make sense to build a new city hall? Well, yeah, a new city hall would be nice, but we invested approximately $2.5 million in the city hall, and is it the best layout that we could have envisioned or go forward? No, but then again, it's $2.5 we invested, but we also extended the life of that asset where, yeah, is it the most ideal thing? But did you want to sit there and spend $10, $12 million on a new city hall? And it's like goes to, what are the priorities or the money we saved on that? You look at, we invested it in other projects such as the Aquatic Center and East Riverbank. So, I just want to say that, a lot of times we look at these things in a vacuum, but we also have to consider other options. So, I'm going to kind of, lean on and depend on the expertise down at the fire station and say that, I kind of support option D. And as far as if they think, if they feel that the apparatus, I think over the long haul, over a bond issue, the additional, bonding for the apparatus, although we don't like the, bond, it's still taxpayer money. We still have to pay it back. But, I'll kind of depend on their expertise that if it extends the life of this asset out to, 20, 30 years, then it can be revisited at that time. And, maybe at that point, we're looking at a central station. Just my thoughts.
I know what the mayor talking about with regard to the riverfront and the aquatic center, but if anything that's important is this facility, because it's used 24/7, and everybody understands the importance of it, and so it seems to me it's something that we need to move on. To procrastinate, interest rates might go up, things can change. When do we put the shovel in the ground? So I guess I'll make a motion and then see how it's passed or not. I'll make a motion to accept Plan D with the apparatus addition at the cost of $2,341,577. That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it to have a vote on there. I guess not that I agree with you. I mean, at a bare bones minimum, and we heard from many different people, at a bare bones minimum, we would need item D with the apparatus bay to put it at around that 2.2 million or whatever ballpark. But if that, again, if it's a case where, like I said, I want to leave it a little bit open, I'll second it just for a vote. But if there is any inclination of wanting to further pursue what the number would be for, something more that the consulting firm wasn't directed to do, to give us a number. I mean, I feel that that's a concern, but it isn't enough concern to hold up this particular process. So with that, again, that's my second.
So if we did pass it, we could still request that information, right?
I think so.
Okay.
And that's one thing that we probably could talk about on the full city council too. Once the discussion is had, but at least that kicks it to city council.
Yeah, so you have all your information you need. So it's been moved and seconded to accept Plan D with the apparatus addition. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, Mayor? Oh, that's not included, huh?
It is, it's included in there, but it would be option A from Station 2 and option D with the apparatus expansion. That includes the 2.34 million. And it entails everything.
I'll take
Do you
it.
want to amend that, your motion, your original motion?
Yeah, I'll amend it.
And then I'll amend the second.
Motion is to accept the second station, Plan A, and the first station, Plan D, for the total cost would be $2,341,577. A second?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? No nays. Okay,
And would you direct me then to get a hold of Five Bugles, and so you have that for council?
Absolutely, if you can do that, that having a finite number. Now, it might be a case where, again, they might come back and say, hey, that wasn't part of the scope, so we need more money type of a thing. But on the other hand, if potentially they're the only ones in the game right now, it's not like we're suggesting that we're going to fire them unless they give us, whatever. But if they can give us reasonable number, you know what I mean, though. I mean, if they can give us kind of some basic numbers kind of on that, because that would be cool to know. I mean, it would be definitely cool, and then it would be cool for them to actually know that we know. So yeah, if you could reach out to 9 Bugles or 5 Bugles,
Five
or
Bugles, yeah, I'll do that
5 plus
this
9
week.
or whatever, and get those numbers, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Chief.
well, I think it's even advantageous too for the taxpayers to know we're trying to get the best quality facility for the price. So I think that's a good idea. Okay, auditing of the bills, checks number 1,174 to 6,522. So checks 6,174 to 6,522.
I'll make a motion to approve. I read through the email that Mr. DeSorsi sent, so I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
There's a motion to approve and second. I just have one question, just for curiosity. Check number 6,177 was for backyard rinks, 2,888. Is that for the skating rink at the aquatic center, or we don't know?
Let's see here. But, you are correct on that. That is for I do believe
The poly,
yeah. Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's been moved and seconded to accept the checks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. And we adjourn at, I think the clock's wrong there,
5:35.
5:35. Thank you.